everyone.
So I feel like we read such a high to welcome and then you vote.
Oh, okay. Good.
Oh, well, that's not really, I mean.
I will introduce.
Yes.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. For those utilizing ASL interpretation services, our two interpreters today are Nat Langerman and Mike Barrios. The display names on the screen will read ASL interpreter SignNexus Nat and ASL interpreter SignNexus Mike. Instructions on how to pin their videos and access cart captioning services will be found in the chat. Thank you.
How you doing?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Mohammed Khalid, and I'm the interim chair of the Civilian Complaint Review Board. I would like to call the CCRB September Public Board meeting to an order. Thank you for joining us. Would the board please introduce themselves from the right?
Rahul Agarwal, welcome.
Esmeralda Simmons, appointed by Public Advocate, Brooklyn, New York.
Joe Fox, appointed by the Police Commissioner.
Herman Merritt, City Council designee from Brooklyn.
Good afternoon, John Siegel. I'm a mayoral appointee.
Good afternoon, Shireen Crawford. I'm a mayoral appointee.
Good afternoon, John Darsh. I'm the executive director of the agency.
June Northern, appointed by the mayor.
Frank Dwyer, I'm a police commissioner designee.
Hugh Hogan, City Council designee, coming out of Borough of Queens.
Good afternoon, Pat Smith, appointed by the mayor.
Good afternoon. My name is Joseph Puma. I'm the City Council designee from Manhattan.
No, everyone's here today.
Okay. Thank you all. The next is the adoption of the minute. Are there any changes or correction to the August meeting? There's a motion to approve August board meeting.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstention? The minutes are approved. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Mohammed Khalid, and I'm the interim chair of the Civilian Complaint Review Board. Our meeting today is on September 10th, but I know that for many of us, our minds are also on tomorrow, September 11th. It has been 24 years since the fateful day when the towers fell and the world changed. As you all know, the office where we are sitting right now is just a block or two away from the ground zero. Many of our staff here pass by every day. It will always be a part of who we are as New Yorkers. Everyone was impacted by those events. Many in this room were impacted personally. In fact, some of our current staff were working at our agency at that time, and others here were among those who helped protect the people of New York in Lower Manhattan that morning, or who worked for months and years to get the city back on its feet. We thank them, and we will always stand together as New Yorkers. Turning to our work at the CCRB, I must acknowledge that we received an official notice from the police commissioner on Friday, August 14th, that we would not impose discipline on Lieutenant Jonathan Rivera in the killing of Alan Felice. First, to this entire Felice family, I want to once again express my deepest sympathies for pain they have gone through. Though the CCRB accept the commissioner's authority to make this decision, we also stand by our investigation and conclusion of the administrative trial. The board finding and recommendation are based on a thorough review of the evidence, interviews with the relevant parties, and an objective determination of the merits of the case. This is true of this case and of all complaints we received. This outcome clearly demonstrates why it is necessary for the CCRB to be empowered with final disciplinary authority in case it prosecutes. Despite this outcome, all New Yorkers should feel empowered to file complaints when they believe that being victim of police misconduct the CCRB will continue its vital work on behalf of all New Yorkers. With that, I will turn over to our Executive Director, John Dosh, for his remarks.
Thank you, Dr. Khalid. I want to begin by recognizing the passing of James Johnson and Deacon Clyde Benson Davis Sr. Both Mr. Johnson and Mr. Davis were among the visionary founders of the National Association for Civilian Oversight of Law Enforcement, or NACOL. They were able to see the need for local governments and advocates for police oversight to organize at the national level, sharing information, best practices, and key principles to guide our path forward. Earlier this year, the CCRB partnered with NACOL to stand up a regional meeting here in New York City, where leaders, practitioners, academics, and community members gathered to discuss and shape the current state of civilian oversight of law enforcement. The work of trailblazers like Mr. Johnson and Mr. Davis directly led to efforts such as this, and we honor their memory. Today, we will hear a brief presentation from Heather Cook of the General Counsel's Office regarding the upcoming agency rulemaking process. This is the process wherein each city agency is empowered to adopt rules as necessary to carry out the duties delegated to it by federal, state, or local law. For the CCRB, that means investigating, mediating, and prosecuting complaints of misconduct against members of the New York City Police Department. Transparency and public accountability are core tenets of this process. That is why we are having this discussion here in the board meeting's open session with ample opportunity for public comment. As Heather will explain, there will also be further opportunities for comment as the process progresses. After the proposed rules are formally drafted and reviewed by the Law Department and the Mayor's Office of Operations. We take this responsibility extremely seriously, and we know the vital role the public plays in providing accountability for government agencies. The CCRB works on behalf of the people of New York, and that means working with the people of New York to ensure their voice is heard. As a reminder, our office is open for walk-in complaints, but it is also possible to file complaints online at nyc.gov/CCRB complaint, by telephone at 800-341-2272 or 311, or by tagging the agency on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. For those wishing to speak today during the public comment section of today's meeting, we ask that you keep your questions and comments to 4 minutes. If anyone wishes to file a complaint today, we have 2 investigators on hand ready to take any new complaints. The investigators on call this afternoon are Emma Steidehar and Rob Bryan, and they are assisted by Bernia Feliciano from the Civilian Assistance Unit. Thank you all for your presence here today and online, and we'll now move on to our board's formal business.
Thank you, John. If board has any questions so far on anything? None? Now I ask Heather Cook of the General Counsel to make a presentation. Heather?
Okay, now can everybody hear me? No. All right, I can be loud. That is one thing that is not an issue. Okay, so as John mentioned, my name is Heather Cook. I'm Assistant General Counsel and Deputy Chief of Investigations here at the CCRB. And today we...
Talk into the microphone.
It's not, I don't know if it, okay. Can you hear me now? Okay. All right. Again, Heather Cook, Assistant General Counsel, Deputy Chief of Investigations. And as John mentioned, today I'm here to talk to you about agency rulemaking. So before we start with all of the technical and legal aspects, I'm just going to give a little bit of context for why we may have to do why an agency such as ours would have to do rulemaking, and give some examples from some rulemaking that we've done in the past. So one of the reasons we would engage in rulemaking is because there would be a charter referendum or a change to our jurisdiction. So for example, in March of 2021, the New York City Council passed Local Law 47, which amended Chapter 18A and Section 440 of the New York City Charter to state that the CCRB had the power to investigate complaints of bias-based policing and racial profiling under the abuse of authority jurisdiction. So what that means is they gave us an entirely new unit, entirely new jurisdiction, and we have to go through rulemaking to determine how that unit is going to operate, right? The day-to-day, what are the definitions of some of the terms used to establish this unit, and then also how the unit is going to work, right? How are they going to provide notice to subject officers, make final determinations, things of that nature. So that's one example. Another example is compliance with court decisions. So some of you may have been here in the past. In 2020, a court determined that a resolution from the CCRB board announcing that it would begin investigating allegations of sexual misconduct by civilians against police officers was invalid because the CCRB did not follow the public vetting process required by what I'm going to refer to as CAPA, the City Administrative Procedure Act, for adopting new rules. So what the court said in that case was, sure, sexual misconduct is within your jurisdiction, but you have to go through rulemaking because you have historically referred these cases. So now that you're planning to take these cases on and investigate them, you have to go through rulemaking to let everybody know that you're going to be doing this. In the past, we had been referring them. We had sort of a lack of capacity. We didn't have specifically trained investigative staff, professionally trained social workers. So when the court came back with that decision, they said, this is fine, but you have to go through rulemaking. So that was another time when another reason why we had to engage in this process. New technology is happening all the time. Body-worn cameras. So in 2022, similar to what happened, because we learned our lesson from the sexual misconduct decision, we had initially referred BWC cases to IAB initially because the program in 2013 had started as a court-ordered pilot program as part of the Floyd litigation. So during the process of the pilot program, when we would see improper use of body-worn cameras, we would refer it to IAB. Once the pilot program was done and they rolled out the program department-wide, taking into consideration the fact that the court in Floyd specifically mentioned the CCRB as a stakeholder in the process and recognized that BWCs were uniquely suited to addressing the constitutional harms at issue because they provide contemporaneous objective records of stops and frisks, allowing for the review of officer conduct. So that said to us, yes, that is within your jurisdiction. But again, the lesson we learned from the sexual misconduct case was that we had to go through rulemaking before we officially started taking on those cases. And then another reason for rulemaking is what we call sort of clarifying or corrective actions. And basically, this is sort of administrative. This is when things change in the agency, and so for example, in 2016, we had rulemaking, and we codified the executive director's role in managing the day-to-day operations of the board. Any agency policies and procedures that change with the times, the rules obviously have to be amended to match how we are operating. Sort of keeping up with the evolution, the constantly changing procedures of the agency. Okay, so that gives you a little history, a little context for why we have to engage in rulemaking, some of the rulemaking we've done in the past. And now we're going to get to a little bit of the denser part of this presentation, which is CAPA. I'm not going to go into every single, this is my probably third or fourth round of rulemaking at the agency, and I have learned something new in CAPA each time. It is very dense. There's a lot of legalese in there. But I will say, I'm going to give you sort of the highlights, but we did, for the board, we put into your annex, your appendix there of the presentation, some more substance of CAPA if you want to refer to it. Okay, So the first thing you have to do in rulemaking according to CAPA is you basically have to give notice that you're going to engage in rulemaking. So what happens in the spring is we get an email from the mayor's office and they say, hey, any agency who's going to be engaging in rulemaking this year, please submit a regulatory agenda. So the regulatory agenda is sent to City Hall. It's published in the City Record, the CCRB website, and the New York City Rules website. Basically, this is sort of like a notice of claim. Like you're saying to people, we are going to engage in rulemaking. We think we're going to do, here's a broad outline of what we think we're going to do for rulemaking, but it is not binding. The regulatory agenda is not binding. It's just to put everyone on notice that we intend to engage in rulemaking. So we have done that this year because we knew that we had to engage in another round of rulemaking this year. So in the spring, we submitted to the mayor's office. We published in the City Record. It's also on our website and the New York City Rules website. Okay, so this is the process. And again, I'm going to just run you through it in a very simple manner, but the specifics are in your packets. So the first thing that we did was, the first thing that you have to do when rulemaking is you draft proposed rules, right? The agency will draft some proposed rules and say, here are the things that we want to, here are things we want to change in our current rules. You then have to send these draft rules to the mayor's office of operations and the law department, and they have to certify them. So the law department certifies the rules for legal issues and the mayor's office of operation certifies for plain language compliance, cost, and the presence of a cure period. After the law department and the mayor's office sign off, we have to publish. Again, the same thing. We publish the proposed rules in the City Record, the New York City Rules website. They generally end up on our website as well. And then we hold a public hearing. So again, those rules are not final, right? They're certified. The law department and mayor's office says this is good, go ahead. We put the draft rules out there and then we hold a hearing. And anyone from the public who wants to come, any stakeholders, anyone who wants to come and comment on the rules can come and attend our public hearing. The public generally has 30 days from the time of publication of the rules to comment. So we will hold a hearing, but we will also accept rules online through our website. It's not just sort of a one-day process. During that whole 30-day period, we will accept written comment. We will accept in-person testimony at the hearing in any format that, relatively any format that people will submit to us. So after the public hearing, then we make any changes that we feel we have to make based on public comment. And then we again, for the third time, basically in this process, we send it back to the mayor's office and back to the law department. And they do a final review for the same reasons, right? They're going to give us a certification to say, yes, these rules are legally sufficient and they're fine. Okay, so we get that certification and then we publish again. So once law department approves the rules and the mayor's office approves the rules, we publish the final rule in the City Record, the NYC Rules website, and again, it will also be on our website. And those rules will then take effect 30 days after the publication, unless the adopted rule says otherwise. So that just basically means if we need more time for something, if, for example, we're creating a new unit and we say, okay, the rule's going to take effect in 90 days because we need to get some infrastructure in place first, some technology in place or some staff in place. Maybe it won't take effect in 30 days. But for the most part, the majority of the rules will take effect in 30 days unless otherwise noted. Okay, now we get to today. So we've got the context, we've got the law, and now we're going to move on to what we're here to do tonight. So again, this is what you see on this slide is the full rulemaking process, a lot of the steps that I just explained to you. But tonight, this is where we are. So for today, what we're going to do, because we are in the baby steps of this, we have submitted the regulatory agenda, but we have nothing drafted. So what we're going to do tonight, the board is going to direct the general counsel's office to undertake this formal process of rulemaking on behalf of the agency. So the board will discuss potential rules in this public session. And then the board will vote, but tonight's vote will only be to authorize the general counsel's office to begin the rulemaking process. So to compose the draft rules. As I previously stated, there are many, 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 many rounds of drafting, reviewing, and publication. This is the first step in that entire process. Later in the process, we'll get to everything else that I discussed, but for tonight, this is all that we are doing. Okay, so as I explained before, sometimes we have to do rules for mandatory reasons. One of those reasons is the main reason that we had to start this process of rulemaking was because in a court decision in 2024, the court said that language we had previously changed, I'll show you the language, we had initially put complainant unavailable, alleged victim unavailable, complainant unavailable, all of those that I won't read. We had put them into one category to make it sort of easier and simpler. And the court said, nope, doesn't work that way. They're too different. The terms are too different. They mean different things. We want you to revert back to your prior terminology. So that in that moment, when the court rendered that decision, we knew, okay, we're going to have to engage in rulemaking. And that started our process here. We didn't appeal. We're going to reinstate the former terms. It's nothing major in terms of our operating procedures. We'll just revert back to the previous terminology. Okay, the second rule falls under what we had talked about before about corrective actions and clarifying procedures. So prior to March 2020, all civilian and MOS interviews were conducted in person here at the CCRB. During those interviews, officers verbally agreed to abide by the patrol guide. The little star is just one of the sections that they agreed to pre-COVID, has now been moved to the administrative guide. So initially it was 2 patrol guide sections. Now it's 1 patrol guide section, 1 administrative guide section, but the content of the sections is the same. So the main focus of that verbal agreement was that absent exceptional circumstances, an officer will be dismissed from the police department for intentionally making a false official statement. The officers do not swear, they do not take an oath. This is something that is written in the patrol guide as part of their responsibilities, job responsibilities. So for civilian interviews, the civilians were told at the start of the interview that they would have to sign a verification form, and that at the end of the interview, they would attest that all the statements that they made they provided in the context of the investigation were true to their knowledge. And then the investigators, many of whom were commissioner of deeds, so that's a little bit, it's sort of a step below a notary. They don't have all the same powers as a notary, but they're allowed to, they did the same basic thing. They stamped it, they witnessed it, they stamped it, and they witnessed those forms. Well, then COVID hit in March 2020, and obviously nobody was in the office initially, nobody could come into the office initially. There were emergency executive orders. Unfortunately, the commissioners of deeds were not covered. They were not allowed to do remote verifications the way notaries were. They were not included in that. That made physical verifications impossible. And obviously not everybody had the ability to fax or, otherwise sort of electronically get documents signed and sent back to us or notarized during COVID. We switched at that point to a recorded verification process. So this also, by the way, covered officers. Officers also went fully remote during that time. So the MOS continued to verbally agree and comply with the patrol guide sections. And again, now it's administrative guide. And the civilians basically mirrored the same language. They verbally swear to or affirm that the statements they make in connection with the case are true to their knowledge. So it mirrors the language of the verification that we read to them pre-COVID. And because the charter does not specify the means by which interviews must be conducted, there was no specific requirement of how to verify or take a statement, how to confirm anything about that statement. It was just, this was what we had done in rulemaking pre-COVID. That had been our policy. But again, COVID made that impossible. So we pivoted like many agencies did. And one of the things, one of the reasons that we were able to do this is because the statements that are made to the CCRB are not testimony. And so they don't rise to the level of an administrative or court proceeding, which would require a formal oath. So we've never been required to administer a formal oath. So since that time, many civilians and almost all members of the Lieutenants Benevolent Association have opted to conduct interviews remotely. So the LBA still does almost every single interview remotely, and many civilians do it remotely. Our CCRB data has shown that continuing to provide this option for remote interviews was not arbitrary and capricious because our number of full investigations has increased drastically. And that sort of coincided with the findings right before COVID, or right on the cusp of COVID in 2020. We published the Blake Fellow report, and that report. Does everybody, actually I should ask because a lot of people weren't here. Does anyone know what the Blake Fellow, what the Blake Fellow was? Okay, so the Blake Fellow basically, tennis player James Blake had an incident with NYPD. And he sued. We had an administrative trial here also with the APU, but basically he sued the city. And as part of his settlement with the city, he asked that the money they would have paid him be used to create this James Blake Fellowship. And part of the Blake Fellow responsibilities was to help with our truncation issues and see what are we doing, what can we do to try to get our truncation rates down. So we had a Blake Fellow and she published a report. And the report basically said, if we eliminate these barriers for people to file their complaints, right? If we eliminate the barrier of saying you absolutely have to come into the office and sit for this interview, the truncations will go down. And so what we found was whether it was the Blake Fellow going out into the field more and going to where the complainants were, or allowing them to do a remote verification, when we eliminated that, it was consistent that our number of full investigations skyrocketed and our truncations went down. So that is the second rule we're going to consider tonight. And the third is formal procedures to govern civilian comment period at public board meetings. And again, we're going to be consistent with the open meetings law. We have nothing drafted, right? We're going to look at the guidelines of the open meetings law, but we have implemented certain policies and procedures over time, and it's probably best for us to formalize them so that everyone is on notice when you participate in one of our CCRB meetings, whether here or in another borough, we have consistent policies that are formalized. One of the things that we're discussing is the chair will set the length of public comment, which is basically how it's going now. And again, the chair may order the removal of any person who engages in disrespectful behavior towards board members or staff or otherwise disrupts the meeting. And these are pretty common rules and regulations for most public meetings. And with that, it was a lot of information. I know there's more information in your packets, but I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody may have at this time. Or not answer any questions, that's fine too. I can tell myself it was such a comprehensive presentation that no one has any questions.
A very good presentation. I want to thank you for the time and effort you put in, and it was very good work. But I think Dr. Khalid might have more.
Thank you very much. It was really, really, everybody knows what's going on, what you're doing it, and I'm sure the board will look into it. And I know it's the initial process,
Mhm.
so we'll be going more further. So at this time, we'll be definitely voting on this in the new business. But first, does the board have any question regarding the overall rulemaking process?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
adds my commendations, outstanding work by the Assistant General Counsel.
Thank you.
And when would you expect first publishing?
We don't have a deadline. That's sort of the beauty of CAPA is once you begin the process, you've begun the process for the year. So we can take our time to figure out, exactly how we want things worded. But the goal is always to, with things like rulemaking, they can tend to bog down. Not everybody's as excited about it as I am. And so, so we like to kind of, we should keep it on track. We shouldn't let it sit for too long, is what I would say. We should get, because we've already filed the regulatory agenda and published the regulatory agenda, we want to get this process moving because as you saw, there's so many different rounds of certification and publication that it does take quite a bit of time.
Good question, Heather.
Mhm.
Is the question of the rule changes just the wording of it? For example, I've seen on the slide, complainant not available, complainant uncorroborative. In some cases in law, if the complainant, who is the complainant, sometimes he's also the victim. Is there a possibility that investigators can take up the case if complaint after we see if something is substantiated, right? If they would take up the case and follow through with it, even if the complainant is no longer available?
Do you want to?
So AU, those are just terminology questions. It
Yeah.
actually doesn't impact our process at all. It's just that in fact, in the computer, even though we had changed how we were publishing the data, we always kept those distinctions because it is useful for us to know internally why different cases were unable to have a full investigation, but we thought it was not as vital for the public. It might actually be confusing to have those different categories. So that is why we attempted to change the rules to, in our public documents, continue to change how we were referring to things into that one large general category. But we never stopped keeping the data on the different categories or different subcategories in our system. So it's actually going to have zero impact on the CCRB's process.
Okay, thank you.
Does the board have any question regarding the proposed court decision with language consistent with court decision? If anybody has any question on the board member? If none, does the board have any question regarding proposed rule on corrective action to civilian and MOS post-COVID interview process? If none, does the board have any question regarding the proposed rule on formal procedure to govern civilian complaint period at public board meetings?
Dr. Clea, I think you meant civilian comment period.
Yes, yes. Anybody has that?
No.
None?
Okay.
So now we will start with the public comment portion of the meeting. We'll begin with those joining us virtually who would like to make a comment, followed by those who are joining us in person. For those joining virtually, please use the raise your hand feature. Please keep your comment to 4 minutes. Shahi, would you please call on the first person?
So far, no one has their hand raised online. If we could give it a moment and I can see if anyone's ready to raise their hand. Okay, we have a Gabrielle Kirkland online.
Please go ahead.
Gabrielle, please unmute yourself.
Hello, my name is Gabriel, Gabriel, Arkles, Arkles. I live in Brooklyn, and I'm here to testify in support of discipline for the officers who killed Win Rosario. I'm a disabled person. I have physical and mental disabilities, and Win Rosario did too. And when he called for help, he ended up getting killed. Even for me as a white person, it makes me afraid of what would happen if I ever had to call the police, because I was in some distress. And I just want to, and that's not what we should have in our city. In our city, we should have a place where any of us of any race, whatever disabilities we may have, are able to call for help when we need it and have that be safe. So I just want to urge the commission to listen to Win Rosario's family and to listen to the community and to take disciplinary action. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comment. Do you have anybody else, Jai?
Okay, I don't see any other hands raised online.
Before we move forward, if I could just ask the tech folks to make sure the timer goes up on the next speaker.
Okay, I do not see any other hands raised online. Okay, so that may
Thank
conclude
you.
the online session.
If there's nobody else, then we'll start with the public comment. We'll begin with those joining us. The timing is 4 minutes, and I would appreciate keep your time and make a line in front of the podium so we can start speaking.
Jai, do you have an order for the first couple of speakers?
Yes. So we have Shimra Thrend to speak first.
Yeah, that should be good. Good afternoon, board. My name is Simran, and I'm an organizer who has been working with the Rosario family since last year when their son was viciously taken away from them. I have been with them since they had been kicked out of their home, and I, alongside other folks and not NYPD, had to clean up Wynn's blood that was left all over the kitchen and smeared along the walls. Wynn's family was here last month, as many of you all know, but they could not take off work again to come today. And family members shouldn't have to risk their jobs and livelihoods for basic accountability, but they have repeatedly been forced to take off work in the past year to fight for Wynn. All of this takes a physical and mental health toll, and it's wrong. As I speak, I want to go through some of how the officers used excessive, improper, and unwarranted force, and that should constitute and contribute to misconduct charges against them. Their rapid, reckless escalations created a dangerous crisis when they killed Wynn in what should have been the safety of his home in less than 2 minutes of their arrival and needlessly endangered the lives of Wynn's mother and younger brother. I will specifically go through now how the second and third tases violated NYPD patrol guidelines. The second and third times Wynn was tased were both indisputably in violation of NYPD protocol and training and should be substantiated as excessive force. Approximately 40 seconds elapsed between the first and second tase, and for at least 30 seconds after the initial tase, Wynn didn't have scissors because his mother had taken them away from him. Patrol Guide 221-08 outlines the only 3 criteria for when tasers can be deployed. CEW should only be used against persons, and this is a direct quote from the guidelines. CEW should only be used against persons who are actively resisting, exhibiting active aggression, or to prevent individuals from physically injuring themselves or other people actually present. None of these criteria, active resistance, active aggression, or to prevent injury, were met when Alongi and Cianfrocco tased Wynn the second and third times. Prior to the second and third tases, Wynn was standing still, did not have scissors, and was not acting in any way that could objectively be considered aggressive or resistant. And he gave no indication of physically injuring himself or others as he was standing by his mother. During these 30 seconds, when Wynn didn't have scissors, Alongi and Cianfrocco made 0 attempts to de-escalate, ask for the scissors from Wynn's mother, otherwise secure the scissors, restrain Wynn, or even ask Wynn to put his hands up, though he did momentarily on his own. They spent the 30 seconds yelling at Wynn's mother to, quote unquote, get out the way, after she was the one who had de-escalated the situation by taking the scissors from Wynn. Alongi, who was behind Cianfrocco for much of the 30 seconds, then moves towards the narrow kitchen opening so that both he and Cianfrocco are both aiming the tasers at Wynn through the narrow doorway. This after Alongi had his taser in one hand and was using his radio with his other. Alongi and Cianfrocco then both deploy their tasers at Wynn without warning to Wynn or to each other, violating Patrol Guide 221-08 again. And this is again another direct quote from the patrol guidelines. When feasible, issue an appropriate verbal warning consistent with personal safety to the intended subject and other members of the service present prior to discharging CEW. Members should not intentionally discharge 2 CEWs simultaneously on a subject. After tasing, NYPD training and patrol guidelines indicate that officers should secure the weapon and restrain the individual. For the 30 seconds that Wynn didn't have the scissors and a slightly longer period when you include the time he was first tased, Alongi and Cianfrocco made no attempt at either securing the scissors or restraining Wynn. While the 30 seconds may seem short, Wynn was killed within less than 2 minutes of, I'm just wrapping up, of Alongi and Cianfrocco's arrival in the apartment, and 30 seconds is actually a significant time in this context and totality of circumstances. Wynn's mother, who isn't a trained officer, took the scissors from Wynn. Alongi and Cianfrocco tasing Wynn in this moment was egregiously unjustifiable. After the first tase, they had 30 to 40 seconds to slow the pace, to de-escalate, to secure the scissors, and or to restrain Wynn, and they did none of that.
I think we've gone over the time, so.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you for your comments.
And we thank you for presenting the evidence.
Use the microphone, we can't hear you.
Thank you for presenting the evidence, and the board will consider that, but we got to stick to the 4-minute limit.
Got
I
it.
apologize.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else, Jai, who's on the list?
The next speaker on the list is Sammy Feliz.
I know the order. Huh? I think I'll be all right. I'll be all right. I just feel bad for the interpreters. Don't start my time yet. Just gonna apologize to the interpreter. I'm gonna speak a little bit quick. As you guys may all know, my name is Sammy Feliz. You guys, this board helps substantiate charges on one of the officers who shot, brutally beat, and murdered my brother, Alan Feliz. I'm here today, not for my brother, but for this family, the Wynn Rosario family, because they deserve nothing more than justice from this staff and from this CCRB board. We're talking about a teenager, guys. Not talking about a grown man like how you looked before as myself. You're talking about a teenager who was in his home with his family, with his mother, with his brother, who was unalived by these officers who came in on gun hold mode, who understood the circumstances before entering this residence, but still entered with a mindset that this is how we're going to address this without weighing out the factors of somebody being in an emotional distress, which should be irate for you guys to even watch. It's hard for me to even discuss this and watch that video. But this death was completely avoidable. I'm sorry. It was a scrawny kid that the cops knew he was in emotional distress, holding a pair of scissors. Two heavily armed officers, allegedly trained, big grown men that had many options but chose to tase, shoot, and kill him in under 2 minutes, which is a disgrace. I want to read things just to set the stage for what I want to say. Patrol Guide 221-01 on use of force says the primary duty of all members of service is to protect human life, including the lives of the individuals being placed in police custody. And there's another section from the NYPD training, Officer Adams' response to a report of an emotionally disturbed person who was wielding a knife. Instead of following approved procedures for such a situation by trying to contain and calm the emotionally distressed person and talk to him into custody, Adam challenges this person. He draws his firearms, walks up on the emotionally disturbed person, and loudly demands that that person drop his knife immediately. All of this agitates the emotionally disturbed person further, and he suddenly runs at Adams with his knife raised, and at that point, Adams' life is in imminent danger. So he shoots that emotionally disturbed person, right? In such a case, the district attorney might not indict Adams because of the incident that he fired. Adams had the reason to fear that his life and safety were imminent danger from the person of emotionally distressed. The department is very unlikely to be so generous to Adams. However, it is likely to discipline him for unnecessarily forcing this confrontation and helping to create the circumstances that gave Adams no choice but to shoot. Because of the department takes its responsibility to protect life so seriously, officers who have hurt or killed people in order to get themselves out of danger that they should have avoided by using proper tactics are likely to be disciplined. That is a fact. These excerpts should be applied directly to Wynn's case, as they prove that Alongi and Cianfranco broke protocol and committed excessive force when they fired on Wynn. From the start, Alongi and Cianfranco broke protocol by failing to do a proper assessment outside of the apartment. At no point did they attempt to speak with Wynn and his family to de-escalate the situation. By the time that Alongi fired the second taser shot, Wynn's mother had already successfully removed the scissors from his hand. 30 seconds passed in which Wynn didn't have the scissors in his hand. Those taser barb hit Wynn with no warning. He was calmly standing still. This was completely unnecessary. Once again, we're talking about a teenager being shocked with thousands of rounds of electricity that are on those guns, right? All of these poor tactics and breaches of protocol, created a crisis in which Wynn must have left with his life, with much he much felt that his life was in danger. Because it absolutely was. When Cianfranco fired his gun for the first time, Wynn's mother had been holding on to Wynn. Cianfranco shot a 19-year-old boy holding scissors while the boy was only inches away from his mother. That was reckless, excessive, and it put innocent lives in danger. Everyone in the apartment was safe until Alongi and Cianfranco entered through those doors. As soon as they entered, they were gun-ho, trigger-happy. They created a crisis, then fired on Wynn because of the crisis they had created. When I took a look at this video, I saw a young person who needed care, a mother who was giving it to him and pleading for his life, two officers that were intent on attacking and killing Wynn. And if you see something different, I challenge you to ask yourself, why? I urge you to give this family a shot at accountability because we all deserve it. Substantiate fireable charges for Alongi and Cianfranco as soon as possible. Thank you. And I'm sorry I went over.
Thank you, Sandy.
Thank you very much.
Jai, is there anyone else on the list that we had of the initial speakers?
The next person on the list is Gwen Carr.
Good afternoon, board. My name is Gwen Carr. I'm the mother of Eric Garner and a member of Justice Committee. All of you on the CCRB know how Dante Pantaleo murdered my son over 11 years ago. Excuse me, I'm so emotional today listening to these statements because it just brings back memories of what happened to my son. So I'm here today to stand in solidarity with the Rosario family because I know the emotion. A lot of people don't understand, and a lot of people on the board don't understand the emotional effect that these cases have. Although my case happened 11 years ago, when you hear cases like this, it just brings back like your son was killed yesterday. So I just want to say, even though it was over a decade again, and I stand here with this family today, that this young man should not be dead. My son should not be dead. There's so many of us that comes before the CCRB that children or loved ones should not be dead. But we can't just look at this as another case. We must substantiate the evidence against the officers who killed Wynn, because it was unnecessary. A lot of these murders are unnecessary. So we just can't sit back and just go through the motions, because it may have never happened to none of you, but we have to have empathy and not sympathy. Because I mean, the things I want to say, it just, my heart is full right now with what happened to this family. Because if I was in this situation where I was with my son that he got choked to death, they would have killed me also. Because I would have been there protecting my son as this mother was there protecting her son. You know, she tried to save his life. She took the scissors away from him. She tried to de-escalate the situation. The officers did nothing to de-escalate the situation. This should be a protocol. This should be in the training. And I can't even say the training because the training is there. But some of the officers are on their own agenda. They're going to do what they want to do. Just like you said, Sammy, they came in gung-ho. It shouldn't be like that. First of all, they shouldn't be first responders. I'm sorry. They shouldn't be first responders. They do not know how to handle a situation when a person is in crisis. A person in crisis, they're not in their right mind. And all they can think, oh, we could shoot them and we could get away with it. That should not be. Send the medical field who is apt to take care of these situations like this and can de-escalate the situation. Because we're losing too many of our children, our men, our women to mental mental illness. But I say to you, put a plan in place, which there should be. I read that there is millions of dollars put in place to help these situations out. Where are those dollars going? Because it seems like they're going to kill our children because we're not getting any justice. And like some of the wording I've heard about when the officers, when they make false statements, they're released. That's not true. There's so many cases where even in my case, all the statements was false and it was proven. None of those officers got fired except for Daniel Pantaleo. And all the statements was false. Now, where's that going? But I just want to say to you today, take a good look. Take a good look at this case. See what you see. Put yourself in that place and see if you come up with a different decision and then what we are telling you today. Because none of us would like to be in this situation. And we don't know when we're going to be put in this situation. Because even though it's not said, there's mostly all of us got some kind of mental illness in our families somewhere, and it could happen to us. And I just think that you should just take the time and look at these officers because they are unsafe being on the streets. I don't say that all officers are bad because we do have good officers, but the unsafe ones, take them off the department. We don't need them out here because it is a danger to all New Yorkers to have officers like that on our force. We need officers who's going to do their job, who's going to follow protocol, who's going to look at the rule book and follow that. And we won't have all these unnecessary deaths. So I just say to you today, please just take a look at all of the evidence, look at the pictures, look at the videos, and then make a decision. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comment. Appreciate that.
Okay, the next person on the list is Nazir Bhutan.
Nasar Bhuyan.
I apologize for the mispronunciation.
Hello, board members. My name is Nasar, and I'm supporter of the Rosario family. I'll be talking about the third and fourth gunshots, how this violated NYPD patrol guidelines and should be substantiated as excessive force against Officer Alongi. I'm also speaking about how the fifth gunshot by Officer Cianfrocco should also be substantiated as excessive force. Alongi recklessly and unnecessarily shoots at Wynn while he has his radio in one hand and is shooting with the other hand. Does Officer Alongi issue any comments or warnings? Does the communicate with the Officer Cianfrocco, who is closer to the kitchen with Wynn and his family? No. This is right after Alongi chaotically fixes his gun that may have been jammed, with body camera footage showing taser wires hanging from his gun handle. Then, while aiming his gun with one hand, he calls on the radio with the other and immediately shoots at Wynn twice in rapid succession, with his radio still in the other hand. After the second gunshot, Wynn stumbled backwards, clearly injured. Wynn's mother and brother were still on the floor of the kitchen between Wynn and the officers. Wynn did not make any attempt to move towards officers. Given Wynn's apparent weakness after having just been shot twice in close succession, and the fact that his mother and brother were between him and the officers, what should a reasonable officer try to do? A reasonable officer trying to minimize the use of force would not have shot once in that moment, and certainly not twice. Why did Cianfrocco not pause, issue a warning, or attempt to give medical aid? Wynn was not moving towards the officers. Instead, Officers Alongi shot Wynn a third time. Immediately after, still one-handed with a radio in his other hand, no other comments were given. Officer Alongi did not communicate with his partner. He did not try to restrain Wynn. Wynn was already stumbling backwards at this point and could not reasonably be considered a threat. Officer Alongi then shot Wynn for the fourth time. There was no justification to continue shooting. The third and fourth gunshots clearly violated Patrol Guide 221-01 and 221-02. After the fourth gunshot, Wynn began to fall down, collapsing from being shot several times. Was Wynn a threat to the officers? He had just been shot 4 times. He was not moving towards officers. He was not making any verbal threats to officers. Wynn, a teenage boy standing several feet away who had just been shot 4 times, did not pose a threat to the safety of anyone present. There was simply no force for the officers to prevent, yet Cianfrocco fired his gun again and shot Wynn. Was there any justification to continue shooting? No. The third and fourth gunshots clearly violated Patrol Guide 221-01 and 221-02. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jai, is there anyone else on the list, speaker list, who signed up?
The next person on the list is Lucia Kazi.
Kazi Fozia. Hello, good evening. Assalamu alaikum, namaste, and shasrikal. My name is Kazi. I'm supporter of Rosario family. I want to share other dangerously reckless court tactics Alongi and Cianfrocco that also contribute accelerating the crisis and should be substandard misconduct that include 13 of board member here today from different board or different department and different agency. I don't know how many of you see the video. I'm not able to see the video, but unfortunately, I have to transcribe the video. I hear it. And I was traumatized many, many days because I'm also mother of the one son. Thankfully, he's not leaving this country, living back home in Bangladesh. And thanks God, he's safe from NYPD. And today, when I'm listening other people, it's traumatized me again and again to think about the scenario, what I heard from the video. So before Alengri tested win 4th time, and before Sian Fuku should win for the first time, Alengri has his taser, his left hand, and gun, his right hand at the same time. I'm telling you, same time. NYPD officers are trained not to hold gun and CEWS at same time different hands. This was identified as poor tactics and substantiated by the CCRB as misconduct in the Kawasaki Tarwi case. I'm telling you, CCRB, Kawasaki Tarwi case. This may also have contributed along his seeming to not be able to work either his taser or gun the moment and what seemed like panic as he then yelled to Sian Fuku to shoot Win. Sian Fuku drew his gun when Alongi was first tasing Win. Within the second entering the apartment, he was reckless, needlessly escalating and endangered the life of Win and his family member who were at the apartment this time. Win's mother was right beside him when he pointed the gun toward them. He also pointed the gun Win's younger brother when Win's younger brother was in the living room. And when his mother was in the kitchen, Win's younger brother was not doing anything to her and having the gun point at him. PG-221, -01 and P3 notes, drawing the firearm permanently or unnecessary limit uniformed member to service option and controlling the situation should issue is appropriate verbal warning. CCRB substandard excessive force allegation when officer Brandon Thompson point gun at the Kawasaki Tarwi. In unreleased footage that the family and their team were able to view, it seemed clear one of the officers take off body camera is not followed. Around that time, the medical attention should be provided Win. This is a violation of NYPD policy and training, and at minimum should be substandard body on camera negligence and obstructing recording after the shooting. Neither officer provide proper medical aid to Win. There is an action or reckless and negligence and should be substandard misconduct. Despite of having shoot Win at least 5 times, include his chest, Alongi and Sian Fuku rear cuffed him even though he have distraction per patrol guide to front of the cuff, use other method to restrain such circumstances. Neither officer checked Win's pulse or whether he was breathing. The began improper chest composition is speed of the fact that Win was bleeding profusely from the chest. This is likely have quickened and ensured Win death. The last hearing I'm able to hear, and it's not one of the interim chairperson said about the officer Didarul Islam death. It's like a compare the police officer death and the civilian death is not the same. I'm sorry to say Didarul Islam got the high attention and hero after the death and lot of attention from the department, from the mayor office and everywhere. How many attention Win's family get? Every 6.5 hours in the USA, someone killed by the police and police killed by the civilian is not the same, sir. It's not the same. You can compare the death, tons of death. with some incidents. We are very, very sorry for all of officers who lost the dead, but you can compare with us. It's kill us. It's kill our movement. When both members compare this, I was not able to last time talk, but I am telling you, it hurts me a lot when you compare who getting highest honor. As a Bangladeshi person, I'm very proud, but why not I am proud for the Rosario case? Why not both take any decisions? So we feel also proud we are able to get justice for the Wins family. He is also Bangladeshi. He is also Bangladeshi, not only Bangladeshi, he is a minority community from Bangladeshi who did not get proper justice in Bangladesh also. Why is happening in USA? As a mother of one son, I'm feeling very, very sorry to come again and again and talk with all people and just open the books again and again in from the family, and family be traumatized every single day. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. We all feel sorry that what happened to Win, and it's a tragedy that we all, this board is the one, and the investigators, we all look into very seriously in every matter which happens. It comes before the board, before the investigators. None one of a person makes a decision. In a case like this, the whole board makes a decision. They look at the facts and everything which happened. And so I assure you that we are all reading these cases, and this case and all other cases, and we will try our best. Certain things are within the law that we have to follow the law. So it's beyond our control as well. So I'm very, very sorry. What happened there is people should not lose their life, but the only thing I can say to your whole family, to all your friends, that thank you for coming here and enlightening us what our duties are, and we will try our best to make sure that whatever the law permits us, we'll follow the law. Again, thank you so much for coming.
Jai, is there anyone else who is on our list for the in-person speakers?
Yes, the next person on the list is Lucinda Lin.
Hi, members of the board. My name's Lucia. I'm here also in support of the Rosario family. I particularly wanted to go through the first and second gunshots that were fired against Wynn, how those violated NYPD patrol guidelines, and why that means that there should be substantiated charges against officers Alongi and Ciafranco. Should the first time that Wynn was shot by Ciafranco be substantiated as excessive force? No warnings were issued when Officer Alongi tased Wynn for the second time and Officer Ciafranco tased Wynn for the third time in rapid succession. This created a crisis where Wynn experienced his life being in danger from both Officers Alongi and Ciafranco. We went over previously the use of force student guide, right? And I also want to go over the Patrol Guide 22101, which states that, again, the primary duty of all members of service is to protect human life, including the life of individuals being placed in police custody, and that officers shall not discharge a firearm when, in the professional judgment of a reasonable member of service, doing so will unnecessarily endanger innocent persons. At the time that Ciafranco first fired his gun at Wynn, Wynn's mother had been holding onto Wynn's arms, which held kitchen scissors. Wynn's young age, he's a teenager, and the fact that he held scissors rather than a sharper or more lethal objects in his hands should be taken into consideration in the totality of circumstances. Given this, do you think that Officer Ciafranco's decision to shoot Wynn was excessive force? It was a clear violation of the patrol guide policy, as I just stated. Additionally, Officer Ciafranco unnecessarily placed Ms. Costa's life in jeopardy. When Officer Ciafranco fired his gun at Wynn, Mrs. Costa was holding onto him, only inches away from where the bullet ultimately entered Wynn. Officer Ciafranco's reckless discharge of his firearm directly placed her life in jeopardy, also in violation of the patrol guide policy. Should the second gunshot from Ciafranco also be substantiated as excessive force? We believe so. About 30 seconds elapsed between the first and the second gunshot. During this time, Wynn's mother and brother are between the officers and Wynn's. The three family members were all holding onto each other while Officers Alongi and Ciafranco each pointed their guns in the direction of the family. This is an unspeakable tragedy to lose your loved one, right, in this moment, and we demand accountability from the officers. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. The next one on the line, on the list.
Jai, is there anyone else on the list for in person before we just open it up?
So the next person on the list is Rebecca Chowdhury.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. আমি ফাহমিনা পারভিন।
My name is Tamina.
ফাহমিনা পারভিন।
Parveen.
আমি এসেছি ড্রাম
I
ব্রঞ্জ
came-
বেস থেকে।
I came from the organization called Drum from the Bronx base.
আমরা কোথায় নিরাপদ?
Where are we unsafe?
বাহিরে না ঘরে?
At home? Are we safe at home or outside?
উইন রোজারিও কিন্তু নিজের বাড়িতে থেকেও নিরাপদ ছিল না।
Wayne Rosario was at home, but he was not safe.
আমরা বাবা মায়েরা ছেলে মেয়ের ভালো থাকার জন্য অনেক কষ্ট করছি।
We work very hard as a parents for our children.
প্রতিনিয়ত আমরা চেষ্টা করছি ভালো থাকার সন্তানের সুন্দর জীবন গড়তে।
To make sure our children are safe.
এরই মধ্যে আমাদের ছেলের সাথে যে কোনো ব্যাপারে কিছু উচ্চবাচ্য হতে পারে।
Anything can happen.
পরিস্থিতি সামাল দেওয়ার জন্য
Regarding the situation to have a safety.
আমরা যদি তৃতীয় পক্ষ হিসেবে পুলিশকে বেছে নেই সেটা কি আমাদের অপরাধ?
Is it our crime that if we take the police officer as for our safety?
পুলিশের কাহিনী ছিল করণীয় ছিল মা ছেলের কথা শুনে সমাধান বের করা,
Son and try to solve the problem.
তা না করে ঘটনাস্থলে এসেই মায়ের সামনে ছোট ভাইয়ের সামনে
They came in front of the mother and the small brother.
Let her finish and then you.
If it's a long sentence, I don't want to miss anything.
Because we want to make sure that we understand what you are interpreting what she's saying.
Right.
So just wait till she finishes, then please.
ওকে, তা না করে ঘটনাস্থলে এসেই মায়ের সামনে ছোট ভাইয়ের সামনে তাকে হত্যা করা।
Without doing that, they came and in front of the brother and the mother killed the child, the son.
উইন রোজারিও তো দাগী আসামি ছিল না।
But Rosario was not actually a criminal.
পুলিশের আত্মরক্ষার জন্য তাদের দক্ষতা এবং তাদের পোশাক কি যথেষ্ট ছিল না?
Their clothing was not that enough that they were wearing.
তারা কি পারতো না ছেলেটার সাথে কথা বলতে?
Couldn't they have spoken to the child?
তাহলে আমরা পুলিশের সহযোগিতা কেন চাইবো?
Then why would support safety from the police?
আমরা কোথায় নিরাপদ?
Where are we safe?
আমরা চাই পুলিশের এই অবহেলা,
We want that this is police behavior.
অপরাধতার জন্য দৃষ্টান্তমূলক শাস্তি।
Have them to have punishment for this situation.
যেন তার মতো কোনো মা বাবা এভাবে উইন রোজারিও হারাতে না হয়।
So other parents like Wayne Rosario's parents, they would not lose their child.
আমরা পুলিশ এবং প্রশাসনের উপর কি আস্থাটা হারিয়ে ফেলছি না তো?
We're not losing the hope for this possession and on the police?
Don't know about this.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Thank you.
Can I go next? I'm Rebecca.
You're the next.
Yeah.
We thought she was going to be the previous speaker. Thank you, Rebecca.
Okay, cool. Hi, my name is Rebecca. I want to add, previously folks talked about the specific categories of misconduct. And I'd like to take into account the totality of the circumstances and the NYPD's own list of aggravating factors, including but not limited to those spelled out in the NYPD discipline matrix. So the matrix states the presence or reasonable availability of knowledge, training, and experience of the member of the service involved that is germane to the incident. Both of the officers involved were trained to interact with emotionally distressed persons, and they received NYPD training. The matrix also says the nature of the event is such that it allowed time for deliberate reflection or action. There are numerous examples of Alongancy and Franco rushing where they failed to do their due diligence and acted recklessly without justification, and that they created crisis points that then they escalated, killing Wynn, endangering the lives of his mother and younger brother. And those examples include that they failed to take the time to do a basic assessment or ask questions of Wynn's younger brother, that are in PG 22113 regarding emotionally disturbed persons before going into the house or the apartment. They asked questions for 40 seconds before entering the house. And when Wynn's younger brother tried to answer those questions, he was repeatedly cut off. And there was significant time for them to gather information for tactical considerations, develop a plan, consider if a specialized unit should be called, but none of this was done prior to entering the house. While they were in the apartment, there were multiple opportunities for Alongancy and Franco to slow things down and retreat, especially because Wynn was never a threat to his mother or his brother. And this includes but isn't limited to the second and third tases of Wynn done by Alongancy and Franco, respectively, when he had been standing without scissors for at least 30 seconds. Instead of taking the time needed at different points, their actions are a textbook case of reckless escalations and creating a crisis and using of force and dangerously chaotic tactics. We're going to refer again to the discipline matrix, which states that disproportionality of misconduct and harm to the community. As we heard from the previous speaker, there was significant harm to the community and what the South Asian community thinks now about what the dangers of calling 911 and reaching out to the police. Wynn would have been alive today if they had not come to his home. The family is dealing with the trauma from that they will continue to carry for the rest of their lives. The discipline matrix also mentions the nature and extent of injury or endangerment to a member of the service or civilian. Alongancy and Franco killed Wynn, and in the process, they also endangered the lives of his mother and his younger teenage brother in the process, causing them lasting trauma. The discipline matrix also mentions the victim's vulnerability that is related to the act of misconduct. Wynn was a teenager who was experiencing mental health challenges when the officers, who were two grown men with guns, killed him in less than 2 minutes in what should have been the safety of his home. Wynn's younger brother and mother were also victims. Wynn's younger brother was also a teenager. And a review of this case requires looking at bias-based policing allegations, including Wynn's mental health condition and disability, the derogatory language his officers used towards him, language, Wynn's mother's limited English proficiency, and looking at race.
Thank you for your comment.
Shahai, is there anyone else on the list to speak in person?
Okay, the next speaker on the list is Jo-Hyun Kang.
Hi, I'm sorry. Sorry, just want to make sure I state the time. My name is Ju Hyun. I'm a volunteer member of the Justice Committee, and I've worked with families whose loved ones have been killed by police since the 90s, which some people might call the 1900s. And I cannot do this mic.
Can you please help the
Can't listen, not to help.
Thank you so much. Can I start over?
Yeah.
So I'm Ju Hyun. Good evening. With the Justice Committee, I'm a volunteer with them, working with Wynn Rosario's family for the last year, and have worked with families whose loved ones have been killed by the police since the 90s or 1900s. Very specifically, I know that you've heard a number of different people talk about different aspects of the case. We're not going to have in 4 minutes the time to go through every argument we would want to do, but I do want to emphasize some very specifically. First, I just want to ask you to do a mental exercise, which is, I'm assuming all the board members, maybe not, have viewed the video. If you viewed the video, I would ask you to just ask yourself, if you have a loved one, or if you were having a mental health crisis, would you trust Officers Alongi and Gianfranco to come to your home? Would you trust them to take care of your loved one? And what I would ask is that, and you don't have to tell us the answer, but if you are not sure if you would trust them or if you wouldn't trust them, then you know that they should be substantiated charges against them. The second thing I just want to say is that part of this case and what's so hard is that this isn't just about the emotions, which are incredibly heavy. This isn't just about vibes. It's about very specific protocol violations. And these officers are dangerous, not only to Wynn and Wynn's family, but to New Yorkers. When you look at various parts of the patrol guide, the sections that I would point you to specifically are use of force 22101, 22102, tasers 22108, DDP 22113, the use of force student manual that Sammy read from very specifically with an example that shows that even if an officer is in imminent risk and fearing for their life, if they cause the conditions that created that problem, which is the second tase by Alongi and the third tase by Gianfranco, that is actually not justified in the department's eyes and that they should be disciplined. And that's a direct quote from what Sammy read, was a direct quote from the student manual from the NYPD. I just want to point you to this, which is, you may not be able to see it, but the second, right before the second and third tase, you've heard about the 30 seconds. 30 seconds, they did not say at any point, give me the scissors. They did not say, throw the scissors on the ground. They did not say, Wynn, put your hands up, although he puts his hands up by himself, for himself for a few moments. They did not say, go on the ground. They didn't say, put your hands up. There's so many things they could have done in 30 seconds that they didn't do. You can see the scissors that have been put down on the chair by Wynn's mother here. You can see here that Wynn is simply standing. This is what he looks like when they tase him the second and third time in rapid succession against protocol, not only because it's after the 30 seconds of doing nothing to de-escalate, but also because they're tasing at the same time because they're not even communicating with each other. When you think about, so the second and third tase, second by Alongi, third by Gianfranco, should both be substantiated as excessive force. Also want to talk about the third and fourth gunshots. The second gunshot, thank you. The second gunshot, I just want to show you, at one point the scissors are on the floor. And actually the family is all wrapped up in each other. That's right before the second gunshot. The third and fourth gunshots, what you can see, it's hard to see in the body worn camera footage. You've got to look at both of the officers' footage at the same time. But actually, Alongi really has he's calling in something on the radio. He's holding his gun, or right after he's trying to fix his gun, he's holding his gun and he's shooting while the radio is still in his hand right after he's called. So there is no sense of actually being careful or cautious or preserving life. This is the opposite of that. It's going to force before anything else. And that absolutely, the third and fourth gunshots by Alongi should be substantiated as excessive force. This is what Wynn is about to topple next to the counter when the third gunshot is happening. This is the fifth gunshot by Gianfranco. Wynn is already weak and he's stumbling and he's falling on the chair. And that's when Gianfranco shoots. None of this is justified. None of this is about preserving life. It's simply about using force. And if you listen to the video, there are very few times, maybe twice or three times, where either officer says anything directly to Wynn. The entire time their verbal commands are get out the way, get out the way. And that was only while they're having either tasers or guns pointed at Wynn to get the mother and the son, the brother, out of the way so that they can use force, not to tell Wynn to do anything. They completely violate the de-escalation definition in the patrol guide, which says taking action to stabilize the situation, reduce the immediacy of the threat so that more time, options, and resources become available. The goal is to gain the voluntary compliance of the subject when appropriate and consistent with personal safety to reduce or eliminate the necessity to use force. They created conditions where they felt like they needed to use force. Sorry, I didn't hear it. Am I over time?
Yes.
Sorry, did not hear, was not trying to be disrespectful.
No. Well, actually, their time didn't start at 3:30 because they was fixing the mic.
No, we reset it.
Okay, just was checking.
Thank you, and I apologize for going out of time. I did not hear the, and thanks for helping with that. Sorry for making such a mess. I'll get out of the way as soon as I can. Thanks, Russell.
Jahai, is there anyone else on the list?
Our next person on the list is Adikla Mepitel.
Adilka Pimentel. Good evening. My name is Adilka Pimentel, and I am here because another New Yorker has been recklessly and unnecessarily killed by the NYPD. I'm here as a New Yorker who has encountered police encounters inside of my old high school, inside of train stations, and in the streets, and was lucky to walk away from these encounters with my life. I say lucky because there are people like Win Rosario who were killed less than 2 minutes into their interaction with officers Cianfranco and Alongi. Win was a teenager who was experiencing mental health challenges and needed care and compassion, and instead was gunned down in what should have been the safety of his home. Alongi and Cianfranco failed to follow NYPD protocol and training, and in doing so, also put the lives of Win's mother and brother in danger. Alongi and Cianfranco were hyper aggressive and made a choice, and I want to say that again, a choice to use force at every turn in violation of multiple NYPD protocols and their training, including holding both gun taser in both hands at the same time, something that has already been substantiated by the CCRB to be a misconduct during the Kowalski-Traywick case. They failed to deploy relevant de-escalation directives, protocols, or trainings. One of Alongi's first questions was, what is he, bipolar, schizo? First off, schizo is a derogatory term. Secondly, Alongi's use of two extreme diagnoses, both bipolar disorder and schizophrenia, to frame his questions shows his bias related to people who experience mental health challenges from the start. And as someone who is diagnosed with and who struggles with mental health myself, this is not the kind of approach I would want if I was in crisis. Not only were the overall actions from the very beginning violent and careless, but the bias that they have means there is a high possibility that they can and will kill others in the same way. Win's case strikes me especially close because Win was a young person, and I work with young people every single day. These are young people who are no strangers to being stopped, frisked, and having their rights violated, even in 2025. These are young people who have had to watch police kill and walk away without consequence time and time again, and killing young people like Win Rosario, Marley Graham, and Sergio Reyes, and again have no consequences. Young people who have to wonder if they end up like Win, will the CCRB and the city ignore the calls to fire and bring accountability to these officers? Will their families have to open up wounds time and time again and plead for some decency, for some accountability? Will we actually meet them this time and bring the accountability that is deserved? And so we are calling to substantiate the charges against both officers, and we are calling for the CCRB to let young people in New York City know they will stand by them, beginning by standing for Win Rosario. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Jahai, is there anyone else on the list?
The next person on the list is Shinor Campbell.
Not quite yet, Mr. Case. Roger, can you go check real quick? Thank you. Is there anyone else after Mr. Graham's brother?
The list from there are folks that signed up to speak from the waiting room, and they're on the
Yes.
list. That will start with Mr. Andrew Case.
So who's on the list in the waiting room?
That starts with Mr. Andrew Case, and there's 3 more people after Andrew Case.
And is one of them Mr. Graham's brother?
Andrew Case,
So why don't we just do the list of folks from the Dakota, could you tell them outside that we're going to just go with the regular list of folks from the overflow room? Thank you.
That is Marley Graham's brother, Shinor Campbell.
And is Mr. Campbell in front of Mr. Case?
Yes, that's the last person from this list.
So who's on the list first, I guess is my question, Jahai.
So the list from the boardroom will be Andrew Case. The last list that we just worked off of, that's the next person that's on the list will be Andrew Case.
So Mr. Case had poked his head in before, and we're ready for him now. Yes.
Hi, thank you all. Andrew Case from Latino Justice Pearl Deaf. Thank you all again. Was in the overflow room listening to all the people speaking about Win Rosario, and Latino Justice obviously stands with the family of Win Rosario. Wanted to also take a moment. Jonathan mentioned James Johnson, Clyde Benson Davis from NACOL, who passed away. And also I wanted to speak a moment about Merrick Bobb, who was one of the real luminaries in civilian oversight. He worked in the County of Los Angeles and since then as a consultant in a number of places and did a lot to develop civilian oversight, and he recently passed away as well. I think NACOL is a fantastic organization. I'm going to be at the NACOL conference in Minneapolis this fall in October 26th to 28th. I encourage those of you who've not been to a NACOL conference before to go. In my day, I remember NACOL conferences with Deborah Livingston and William Kuntz and Franklin Stone and Hector Gonzalez, and 3 of those people are federal judges now. You come from a long line of very impressive people who have sat on this board. And you guys have been doing incredibly good work. I look at the substantiation rates. I see the cases that you guys have investigated, and they are stronger and better than ever, and you are rooting out misconduct. The problem is entirely what happens when those cases leave your hand and they go to the police department. As some of you might know, we recently sued the police department over the case of William Harvin, which is a case that you all substantiated years ago. And the NYPD, despite the fact that it has an MOU with you saying that those cases are for you to prosecute at trial, simply declined to let you prosecute the case. It retained the case. That's the term you know they use for this. And they did it even though it did not meet the standards for retaining a case under the MOU. And the court wrote that it found that the police department's conduct was alarming, but it said that only the CCRB can sue on that MOU, and people who were harmed cannot bring a case saying the NYPD failed to follow the MOU, even when it did. You all, however, can. So keep thinking about what the NYPD is doing when your cases go there and they are rejected, and your intensive investigations and the hard work you do is not responded to by the police department and by the police commissioner. I look at these investigation after investigation, and I see command discipline A, command discipline A, command discipline B, and these are sometimes for serious misconduct that you have uncovered. So I just encourage you to take the step for yourselves. We support also the family of Alan Feliz, and I heard Dr. Khalid speaking about the Feliz investigation. I applaud this board for standing firm on the fact that you did a thorough investigation. You found that Lieutenant Jonathan Rivera should be fired. You tried the case. You convinced a deputy commissioner of the police department that Lieutenant Rivera was lying. And the police commissioner, without looking at the trial or hearing the evidence, turned the other way. So I want to applaud all of you for the work that you've been doing and emphasize that there remain enormous issues when your cases go to the NYPD. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jen Vin Wong. I am the supervising attorney with the COP Accountability Project at the Legal Aid Society. We are the largest public defender organization that provides institutional representation to all of those in New York City who are accused of crimes. And so we are also daily witnesses to police abuse, to police misconduct, and to police violence. I was in the overflow room listening to all the powerful testimony that was delivered to this board before me. I obviously stand in solidarity with the families and loved ones of Win Rosario and of Alan Feliz, which this board has spoken about again today, as they did, I believe, at earlier board meetings. And it is unconscionable that the families have to come here and basically beg the board for accountability because they feel that the NYPD has failed to protect them and has failed to protect their loved ones and has failed to deliver accountability. And so what it really highlights for me is the importance of CCRB as an independent investigative agency to hold NYPD accountable. The independence and authority of this agency is so incredibly important, and it really highlights why it's so important for the board to have the resources and the staffing required to fulfill your mandate. And in so many ways that NYPD has undermined accountability, reversing a decision by its own NYPD police commissioner in the case of Officer Rivera and in the killing of Alan Flees, in the ways that they delay accountability for officer misconduct in so many different ways. CCRB will substantiate allegations, the APU will be ready to bring it, and then for whatever reason, the decision will be pending for a very long time because unfortunately it has not been able to been brought to the trial room because the police commissioner has retained the case, what have you. And for so many of these reasons, it is so important for the CCRB to have the resources it needs to fulfill its mandate. And at least one of the complaints that Legal Aid Society has brought on behalf of its clients, the CCRB has brightly substantiated those allegations. It included racial bias allegations. Those have been substantiated. And it has been awaiting trial for now, I think, over a year. And so for our client, they have not been able to have that accountability for the misconduct and for that racial bias allegation that this agency has correctly substantiated against him. And so I just want to commend the agency for the work that's done, clearly seeking out accountability for officers in every way that it can. I'm just reiterating at this point that you need the resources and adequate staffing in order to fulfill your mandate and to really bring justice to the victims of police misconduct, police violence. I also want to acknowledge that there have been recent, I was saying in the other room to Andrew, that there are just too many NYPD, in custody NYPD deaths. And most recently, another one of our clients actually had just passed away in NYPD custody as well. And so I just want to acknowledge that there's just too many deaths, and it really highlights the importance of the CCRB independence and the importance of the CCRB's work to bring accountability as an independent agency, because the NYPD has lost credibility amongst the community for being able to hold their officers accountable for their misconduct. Thank you.
I certainly agree with you for the resources. That's a very big tool for all of us as a CCRB. So we have mentioned that, and thank you for mentioning that.
Right. So I think that was everyone from the overflow room. Is there anyone who is in the room now who would like to speak?
So, John, I believe we have been joined online by Councilmember Shahana Hanif.
So, Michael, if we could hear from the council member, and then we're gonna have everyone on.
He missed his opportunity.
Michael.
Our turn.
Michael, I hear you. And you'll get the floor next.
You hear me, you don't like I'm paying attention to me.
I was paying attention.
John, we have one more speaker from the overflow room.
But let the council member go, then Michael Myers, and then this person.
Thank you all so much. Good evening. I'm Councilmember Shahana Hanif. As a Bangladeshi New Yorker and your city's first Bangladeshi elected, the killing of Win Rosario is deeply personal to me. Our city's Bangladeshi and South Asian communities are still mourning the loss of one of our own. Win Rosario should be here with us today. I joined today's hearing to extend my continued support to the Rosario family and never let Win's name be forgotten. It's critical for the Civil Complaint Review Board to serve its charter mandated function and substantiate charges of misconduct that are clear and obvious in the publicly available footage of Win's killing. For years, we've discussed the need to strengthen the relationship between the police and our community members, and a ruling that fails to affirm what the video evidence shows would put a severe strain on the credibility of the NYPD and the board. I want to recognize that our police officers are tasked with extremely challenging duties. In protecting and serving the city, they have to make quick decisions to best protect and serve New Yorkers. I do not want to minimize the difficulty of their responsibilities in situations like this. With that said, in watching that footage, it is clear that this case includes excessive, improper, and unwarranted force. The NYPD created a dangerous crisis where they killed Wynn in what should have been the safety of his home in less than 2 minutes of their arrival, and needlessly endangered the lives of Wynn's mother and younger brother. I'd be remiss not to note that Wynn's killing is a tragic example of why the police should not be the default responders to situations that demand targeted, health-centered interventions. Other cities have comprehensive public safety systems that can send specialized mental health responders to crisis situations on demand. This is a proven model that New York City can and must replicate. Thank you so much for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Appreciate that, your comments.
Thank you.
Mr. Myers, you go next, please. I apologize for the delay.
Yes, I'm Michael Myers. I'm the president of the New York Civil Rights Coalition. I like rules, but we have to obey the rules and follow the rules. Everybody has to get an equal chance to be on the list, whatever that list is. If there's 1 or 2 or 3 lists, I want to know which list I'm on in advance of coming down here, okay? It's just a matter of courtesy to the public and to the advocates who are not here today, but who are out there and who don't come here because we don't get courtesy enough to be here. Now, I repeat one more time about this police commission. I want to know, because I know I'm only going to have 4 minutes. I want to know, where is the CCRB, Mr. Chairman, interim chairman, Mr. Executive Director, members of the board? Where is the CCRB's letter? Where is the CCRB's letter to the police commissioner inviting her to a meeting of the board, public meeting of the board? She should be here today. She should be here listening to the people, not just you, because these messages are addressed to the police commissioner because apparently she still has the power and the authority to ignore your recommendations. But I don't think any police commissioner or mayor who appoints a police commissioner can ignore the voices of the public that are indignant and upset and disgusted by the inaction, the indecisiveness, and the tawdry behavior of people who are supposed to investigate and punish police misconduct. Now, whatever you have done, you haven't done enough. You just haven't done enough. Now, I also want to know what the hell happened, because I could barely hear the interim chair back there. I want to know what happened with the police commissioner's ignoring of the CCRB's recommendation. I think I heard you say that it was ignored. And I don't hear any member of the board saying, what? What do you mean she ignored what you recommended? She just has, yes, she has the power to ignore, but I want to see your letter, meaning the CCRB's letter to the police commissioner saying, we object to your ignoring us. We object to you ignoring the administrative law judge. We object to you ignoring this CCRB process that is a matter of law. And the mayor should invite your resignation because you are ignoring us. Where's your letter? It should be a public letter. It should be in the record, not just in the minutes. It should be on your website, your response to the police commissioner's non-response to you. It's so disgusting. It's just, I don't understand how anybody here sits here and doesn't resign. How can you make recommendations that are ignored by the powers that be, by the authorities that are authorized to enact justice, response? And nobody resigns. Nobody just gets upset. Nobody raises their voice other than me, but I'm not sitting there. And I'm saying to you, until the people on this panel start to get up and object to this police commissioner, she's going to be there, ignoring you still. Now, her time is running out, I hope, just as Mayor Eric Adams' time is running out. So she's not going to be appointed again as police commissioner because she has ignored the public. She has abused the public's trust. And so if I could hear what the interim chair was saying, if that's what she did, then you guys ought to be making a public complaint and a public announcement and a public demand that she resign immediately. As far as rulemaking, I don't understand these rules. I really don't. Now, are you talking about ministerial matters? Are you talking about amending the statute so that the police commissioner doesn't have the final authority? So when you talk about, I don't care about rulemaking. You got enough rules. But police commissioner should not have the final authority to discipline police officers. That should be your authority, your role, and you should be demanding it. So I want to see where in your legislative processes you are devising legislation to be submitted to the general counsel or legal whatever, and the mayor's office prior to even getting your rules published. Have you made that demand that you have the final authority? The hell with the police commissioner. This process, this experiment of having the police commissioner be the final decider just failed. It's failed because this police commissioner and the police commissioner before her and the police commissioner before him, they have failed, and they should be demanded to get the hell out because they can't discipline their police officers. They can't discipline the rank and file. And since they can't do it, you got to do it. And you should be demanding that. I mean, before this mayor takes his leave, which will not be soon enough for me, but before the mayor takes his leave, let me see your letter. I want to see your letters to the police commissioner. I want to see your response to the police commissioner when she ignored you. Is that in the public domain? Is that available online? Is that in our hands? Is it in your hands? Why haven't you done anything? Responded. Told her, get the hell out. You're not being responsible to the public.
So, Mr. Myers, first of all, I think your time is up. Second.
Yeah, I know. My time has been up a long time ago. But so is the police commissioner's time. It's up. I hope she hears me. It's up. Get the hell out.
The CCRB's letter to the police commissioner after she notified us of her intent to overturn Deputy Commissioner Maldonado's recommendation. If it is not already on our website, will be on our website.
So her decision was to not to overturn it or to overturn it?
So the police commissioner decided to overturn Deputy Commissioner Maldonado's recommendation.
That's what I thought I heard the interim chair say.
Yes.
So what's your response?
We wrote a letter urging her not to do that.
I'm talking about after she did that. What's your response? Did anybody resign? Did I hear the interim chair correctly?
Mr. Meyer, we sent the letter out. First letter came, we responded as per law. And it's her, jurisdiction and her responsibility as a police commissioner, and she did what she wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And in our part, we did our investigation, we did the trial and everything. And so whatever our responsibility per law, we did that. Again, ultimate decision, disciplinary decision lies with the police commissioner. So whatever we did in our part.
So you should join the ranks of those who are seeking to amend the statute so that the police commissioner does not get the final decision.
Mr. Myers, that was the first thing Dr. Khalid mentioned. Well, it wasn't the first thing, but it was in his remarks. And the agency led by Dr. Khalid had been advocating for final disciplinary authority to go to the CCRB for many years. That's not something that the agency is not doing.
So is there a joint letter from everybody?
It's not in a letter. It is in the testimony that the interim chair gave to the Charter Revision Commission. And it is.
We've had so many chairs, interim chairs, and all that. The commission, the board, send a letter to the mayor or the next mayor, whoever, to everybody. We want a change in the statute. We want to have the final decision-making authority over police misbehavior. That's kind of.
People who I think need to talk now.
Yeah, I know.
I know you do.
I appreciate you, Michael. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Meyer.
If you could tell us your name, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Shnor Campbell, and I am the brother for Ramali Graham, who was murdered by NY.
Are you Mr. Campbell or are you reading an email from Mr. Campbell?
No, I am Mr. Campbell. Yeah. Sorry, I have it written down. I apologize. Good afternoon. My name is Shnor Campbell, and I'm the brother of Ramali Graham, who was murdered by the NYPD 13 years ago in the Bronx. At the time, I was only 6 years old, and when they gunned down and murdered my brother in front of me and my grandmother, we were at home in our apartment when they busted through and murdered my brother Ramali. It took 6 years for my mother, 6 years of my mother fighting nonstop with protests, rallies, and working with Justice Committee and others to try to get 2 officers who killed my brother out of the NYPD. That alone just took a toll out of all of us, and no family, especially who I want to call out today, Ucho Rosario's family should not have to go through. I'm here to urge that you guys substantiate allegations against the police who killed Win Rosario as a small step towards justice and accountability, not only for Win's family, but for my family and much others. While some of the specifics between the murder of my brother and Win is a little bit different, there is a lot of similarities that I've seen from 13 years ago to what happened last year in March. I feel for Win's brother, Ucho, because as seeing your brother being murdered in front of you, that's nothing that anybody here, sitting here right now, would understand. And I want you guys to understand that we lost a part of our family, and the people who are supposed to protect that family is the ones who took it away from us. The CCRB didn't substantiate charges against the cops who killed my brother in front of me when I was 6 years old. The NYPD did, and they brought disciplinary trial charges. And the judge found Officer Richard Hayes guilty and recommended that he be fired. Hayes resigned before he could even be fired, and Sergeant Morris was forced out of the NYPD for his role, and the third cop was put on a disciplinary probation. My mother had to fight for almost 6 years for just that to happen, and it's wrong. After so many years of seeing cops get away with murder, we need to do better, and I hope that this board can help make that cause happen. You have the power. You have the power to substantiate the misconduct for these 2 cops, and I hope that you take that power responsibly and seriously do the right thing. Nobody can understand what it feels to witness your brother being gunned down in front of you by police, or to hear people try to justify the police doing the wrong things, or just some fancy quote unquote, it was within the guidelines. Every day of delay of firing these police is a slap in the face to the families who continue to fight and continue to march in the streets to demand justice for their family members. There's no way that any of us can imagine what happened to my brother or Win happening to a wealthy white family. That's how you know that this is racist and wrong. We need to do the right thing, and we need to end the racism now. I'm here because I don't want Ucho or his mom or his dad or the rest of his family to be fighting for another 5, 6, or 10 years, just like how my family did, just to make sure that the dangerous cops who murder Win are fired. It's wrong that they even have to fight this hard now, and that's why I stand up here trying to help with them with that fight. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Michael. State your name.
Hello, members of the CCRB, everyone assembled. My name is Rohit. I am from, my name is Rohit. I'm from Brooklyn. I'm also here to add to the complaints against the conduct of Officers Alongi and Gianfranco in the Win Rosario case. I think that this is a case of 2 officers who took a young man's life on a call that it should not have happened. I think that, I read details like failing to ask anyone in the house, hey, by the way, what's your name? Or like brandishing a gun in front of his younger brother, it smacks of like two officers who did not see the Rosario family as like members of the community who deserve the respect and protection that any other members would deserve. They acted violently. We've heard so far violated many internal policies, training guidelines, and yeah, I hope that this CCRB does everything in its power to issue some sort of accountability, some sort of consequence for this, so it doesn't happen to somebody else. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम अस्सलाम वालेकुम गुड इवनिंग मेरा नाम ताहिर बेग है और मैं ड्रम ऑर्गेनाइजेशन की तरफ से यहाँ मौजूद हूँ मैं इस
Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Tahir Ahmed Beg, and I'm here from Drum Organization.
और मैं विन के जो वालिदैन हैं वो दुख और गम की इस घड़ी में मैं उनके साथ हूँ और इंशाल्लाह हम उनके साथ इंसाफ के लिए खड़े हैं
I'm here to show solidarity to the family of Win Rosario and to share their grief.
जनाबे वाला जैसा कि आप जानते हैं कि एक बेगुनाह का कत्ल पूरी इंसानियत का कत्ल होता है
As you know that Islam says that the death of one person is the death of the whole humanity.
और आप भी ये जानते हैं कि किसी भी मुल्क की पुलिस वो अपनी आवाम की कातिल नहीं होती बल्कि वो आवाम की मुहाफिज होती है
And as you know that the police of every country, every nation, they are the protectors of their people and not their killers.
और मैं आखिर में ये कहना चाहूँगा कि हमें उम्मीद है कि आप विन की फैमिली के साथ इंसाफ करेंगे और कानून की बालादस्ती को कायम करते हुए जो जिम्मेदारान हैं इस वाक़या के उनको करार वाकई सजा दिलाई जाए
And we still have hope from this committee that they will give justice to the family of Win Rosario and hold the police officers who killed Win Rosario accountable.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who's going to be a part of public comment tonight? I think that concludes public comment, Dr. Khalid.
Thank you all for making your comments. And as I said previously, I again assure everyone that we at CCRB are fully committed to make sure that we do a full investigation, to make sure that a proper work is done as per law by all of us. This all board is someone which read the cases, looks at the investigative reports and all this, and they make a conscious decision about any case, Rosario case or any other case. So I assure you we'll keep working harder and harder to make sure justice is served to the New Yorkers. Thank you all again for coming.
You should keep going.
You're going to go into old business? Please be seated for a few minutes. Do we have any old business to come before the board? None? So we go into new business. We are now in the new business portion of the meeting, and I'm going to call for votes on each of the proposal in Ms. Cook's presentation. I move that the General Counsel Office draft the proposed rule on changing language consistent with the court decision. Do I have a second?
Second.
Does anyone wish to say anything before the vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstention? I move the General Counsel Office draft a proposed rule on corrective action to civilian and MOS post-COVID interview process. Do I have a second? Second. Does anyone wish to say anything before we vote?
Yes, I do, Mr. Chair. I'd urge the General Counsel and people drafting it to consider rules and guidelines regarding conduct in a remote interview to ensure that all participants are on screen, that there's no coaching and other things that can go wrong in remote interviews too. But I support very strongly the idea that remote interviews should be available as part of the process.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Chair, Mr.
Yes,
Chair,
yes.
I would only ask the council in preparing these rules to protect as much as possible the importance of the oath of the complainant, that we don't further erode the requirement that allegations which could affect someone's life, someone's career, can be made with little protection by an oath. That we keep that in mind as we proceed with this process.
Pat, this is like a preliminary process. I know there's a lot of steps have to be taken, and hopefully we'll all discuss that in the near future. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Any abstention?
You guys should also make it punishable if
No,
they
no.
can, though.
Sammy,
I mean, we can do.
Sammy is. Sammy.
But just one step. One step.
Sammy, it's a,
It's
Sorry,
for the
Officer
board, it's not for the
Sammy,
public.
this is,
We'll have time for this.
Sammy, you gotta trust me on this, please.
I know. I just wanted to be fair across. the
Sammy, please let us finish.
Okay, the last one, I move that general counsel office draft the draft proposed rule on formal procedures to govern civilian comments period at the public board meetings. Do you have a second?
Second.
Does anyone wish to say anything before the vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Though, all those opposed? Any abstention? Is there any other new business? If none, we'll adjourn to the executive session. Hearing none, I'm going to move now that we break into executive session. The agenda for the executive session is the executive director will consider one full board case, discuss pending personnel actions, and the general counsel will provide update regarding pending litigation. Is there a motion to adjourn to executive session?
So moved.
You have a second?
Second.
So move. This meeting is adjourned now.